As students in the new millennium, we can no longer keep our feet planted solely in our own nations. To be an educated person in this world, we must understand society on a global level. Studying abroad provides students with a global perspective. By being immersed in an entirely new cultural setting, you can discover new strengths and abilities. You will learn to adapt to situations that are wholly unfamiliar. These are experiences that no normal classroom can provide. Despite these benefits, however, many students are still hesitant to travel outside the country. A recent study showed that only 4% of U.S. undergrads ever study abroad. I decided to share my experiences in hopes of convincing others about the power of international studies. My travels led me to the state of Guanajuato in central Mexico. The capital, which bears the same name, is a small city surrounded by mountains. Despite its compact size, the city is a bustle of activity. Guanajuato is more upper class than most cities in Mexico. The art and culture of the area are fused directly into the cityscape. Guanajuato is lined with murals, many painted by Diego Rivera, the most famous muralist of the 20th century. Travelers are drawn in by Guanajuato's mystic nature. The city is known for its population of bats, or murciélagos, which live in the underground ruins of the old Parapichen Indians. It is also home to the Guanajuato Mummy Museum, a collection of naturally mummified remains during a cholera outbreak in 1833. The city is best known, however, for the Cervantino Festival, a festival dedicated to Don Quixote. It takes place every October and draws crowds of thousands of travelers from around the world. It was during this festival that I, too, decided to make an international journey. Upon arriving in Guanajuato, I experienced immediate culture shock. The architecture was foreign and striking. The food was mysterious. Everything was written in Spanish. While this may seem obvious at first, it's quite unnerving to be surrounded by another language. The safety net of speaking English had been removed. The native Mexicans did not look like I thought they would. I realized that I had built preconceptions about Mexico based solely on stereotypes. I assumed everyone would be short, round, with a dark complexion. Instead, the citizens of Guanajuato were tall, thin, and fair-skinned. The inner sanction of Guanajuato was heavily upper class. The houses were brightly painted in colors not traditionally seen on U.S. houses. The front yards were replaced instead by courtyards. The cityscape definitely had a colonial feel to it. The outskirts of the city, however, housed poverty that I had never seen in my home country. My concepts of poor were redefined as I observed families living in mud houses with tin roofs. I began to appreciate all the things I once took for granted. We decided to take part in the local activities. Bullfighting is big in Mexico, and it always seemed exciting to me. My friends and I entered the stadium and were greeted by the familiar cheers and crowds of American sporting events. The actual bullfighting, however, was more gruesome than we imagined. The bull is slowly and agonizingly killed before a cheering crowd. The death itself is quite bloody and violent. We were shocked to see that a sport such as this was still popular in today's society. As I anticipated, communication was difficult. My Spanish was very weak. Nonverbal communication became key in talking with the natives. Many of the lessons I learned from high school Spanish quickly flooded back into my head. I didn't realize before this moment how I had taken the simple act of communication for granted. I'm used to being able to speak to any person at any time. When you are a foreigner, however, even the tiniest acts are made more difficult. Coming home from another country made me grateful for many things I had taken for granted. I had a better understanding of life for immigrants in the United States. I am no longer curt to people that cannot speak my language. I acquired a new perspective on what it means to be an American. Reflecting on my own culture, I realized that the way I do things isn't always the right way. I hope my experiences can help persuade a weary student to take his or her first steps outside their country and experience life on a much larger scale.